Okay. Let me try that. Okay, cool. Okay. Yeah. Good. How are you? Right. I'm in Milwaukee, yeah. So I'm in Central. Let me just turn off everything that would be a distraction. Okay. Cool. Yeah, yeah, this is I sometimes work here. Today I had to work on providing some music to a little bumper for this production company. So, um sometimes I work here, usually work at home. The company I work for also has a Milwaukee office that I sometimes go to. But yeah, this is where also all the bands I am in practice and other bands as well. It's a pretty amazing space because it's uh never the rent was never raised for the last like 12 years or however we've been in here. It's an incredible space, massive. And yeah, so it's like yeah, I love it. So I built a little studio. So like the last two Maritime records were kind of well recorded mostly here. One of them was 100% here. The other one was kind of 50-50 from our previous space and other studios. But so yeah, yeah, it's been good. And I'm still using the same gear that uh that the Promise Ring used um to demo a lot of the Woodwater stuff. So it's like I've got like very old equipment, but it still works. No, this is all like yeah, yeah, just like preamps and like recording gear. Yeah. 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 Yeah, no, I love Logic. Today I was working in Pro Tools. The Maritime stuff, I prefer Logic because I started in Pro Tools, but then moved over to Logic. But then um for certain jobs I do Pro Tools. Yeah. But then also this other band I'm in, two of the members like to use the hell is it called? Um, I can't remember what it's called. Oh yeah, no, Reaper. Reaper. Yeah, it's like this weird thing. It's a free thing. They want a donation, so you have to, keep clicking off that. But it's yeah, they use that. So I use that too, because then when I record for that band, then I need to switch over to that and we share files and all that, when we're, kind of work on all the songs together that way. But for these bands, we're all yeah. Whoever's whoever's doing their stuff is the engineer and producer for that. Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah. What's it called? STL Tone Hub, and then that's just a thing through that you can get through Logic. Yeah. Okay. Hmm. Sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I get it. Yeah. I finished mine a while ago, so all my burps are gone. Hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Like I haven't used it. The only use it, I use AI for um stem splitting, because I do that indie drummer collective. And so, now that Logic has that kind of, inside it, that's helped. But I used to go through this site called Moises that would separate the drums, because then I could then replace the drums to it. Um, Before I realized all that, I just played along to the track itself and tried to like EQ the drums out myself early on. But for our recording, I don't think I really would use that any sort of AI for recording. Like I have a guy that I really like to master things like that I trust. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I haven't, besides stem splitting and stuff, like I haven't really used AI in, no, this all yeah, just all digital, yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it started with uh Aaron Tate, who was in Minus the Bear. And it started with him and Chris Daly and a couple others that were just Chris Daly from Texas is the reason, and Jets of Brazil. It started with them doing the Clash. Just, hey, let's do this. And so then little by little, especially then when the pandemic hit, this was slightly before the pandemic, I think, and then certainly during the pandemic when people weren't touring anymore, it was an outlet for drummers to keep active and to build a sort of community. So the Slack channel for the Indie Drummer Collective is amazing because like that's well cool because like I could ask questions to, you know, insane people that I look up to highly, and just be like, hey, this is happening, blah blah blah. What's your input? Like, what do you think about this? I got this new piece of gear. Is that, should I have or should I get something else? Um, it's yeah, that's what's been really cool about it, and it actually got me back into drumming because after like Maritime's last show was December 2016, and then I started just starting up with this other band where I just played keyboards. So I wasn't drumming from like 2016 to basically right around the pandemic and this indie drummer collective thing started up. So it got me back into drumming, which is great. And Yeah, so it's been this kind of cool thing. But then obviously once, touring started happening again, a lot of people dropped out or just it's still part of the group, but not posting as much. And I'm in so many fucking bands right now that like I can't do it every month either. So, but yeah, so it's just, it's there when I need it, which is kind of cool. And I get to enjoy all these people, watching them play and get inspired by watching them play. Because I'm a, you know, I love watching drums. Like I always um, watch the opening band's drummer, or if I'm the opening band, I watch a headliner. Like I'm always watching the drummers. I always want to be side stage when I can to get the kind of a good view. Um, and yeah, so it's been great and really inspiring, you know. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah. 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 Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's yeah. Damon and I go way back. My band, one of my new bands, just opened up for Hey Mercedes in Milwaukee on Friday. Um, yeah, because they did like a couple shows and they played that thing in Chicago. But Damon and I actually started music together. We grew up in the same town in like a northern suburb of Milwaukee called Grafton, and yeah, so like we would jam we started like jamming just somebody on guitar and somebody on drums and we'd switch off and then we were in just started bands together and that so yeah me and him go way back so yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Well, I started in like percussion, so like I did a lot of like concert band like in middle schools kind of when I started like well yeah, fourth-ish grade, I did percussion. So I was, snare drum, bass drum, cymbals, not all at the same time. And then that was like, yeah, did a lot of that. And it wasn't really drum sets until later, or I'm sorry, yeah, started percussion in elementary school and then kind of did drum set a little bit more in the middle school. And that's when Damon and I started. That was middle school for yeah. Yeah, like we've our band Peace Loving Anarchists uh played our middle school talent show. We did what we did an original I think and then we also did everyone's favorite Wipeout. So, you know, we covered all bases. Um, but yeah, it's yeah, that was fun. So I sort of started with that, and then throughout throughout high school or middle school, high school and college, first year of college, I did a lot of percussion stuff, and doing a lot of that while just being in bands and learning um drums that way. And actually, Damon and I both had the same drum instructor, Mr. Fisher, in Grafton, and so that's taking lessons from him has got me into drumming. And my brother was a drummer. My older brother was a drummer, so I just did throughout my life basically up until we were, an adult. I basically just followed whatever my bigger brother was doing, Yeah, so he got into skateboarding, I got into skateboarding, he got into punk and new wave, I got into punk and new wave, he got into drums, I got into drums, he got into film, I got into film. Um, and yeah, so that's sort of how that started. And then it was just, you'd go to shows and you'd see these bands, play, and you'd be like, okay, I that's what I want to do. And so yeah, then so Damon and I started a band, and then yeah, and then Yeah, then it was sort of like that. That he, yeah, that like he went to do another band, and then I continued on with this other, So yeah, then it just sort of snowballs into wow, here, like just whatever it takes to keep bands going. No, they're not. No, not at all. I think, I mean, I think my mom just wanted my brother and I to have an outlet outside of, you know, beating each other up. So that, yeah, so that I think that's sort of how it just sort of was like, you're going to do this now, okay. Um, but yeah, both boys. Yeah, 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 right. Yeah. Yeah, that like I have two daughters and they're 19 and about to be 17. And one's in college, one's in a junior in high school. So, I mean, like the sort of like growing up with, and we have this close group of friends here in Milwaukee. Um, and my friends that have boys is just like that energy is, I just don't know how they deal with it. Like, I don't think, because like, I don't think raising two girls is like, I don't think I could handle that. Like, you know. Yeah, oh, it totally does, but it's separate. It is different. Like there is a difference. You know, one thing is a little bit more challenging emotionally. Another one might be more challenging physically. There's like, you know, there's differences for sure. But yeah, like I just see these boys playing around at when we go visit each other's houses and stuff, and I'm just like, this would drive me nuts. Tried very hard. I tried very hard, starting with drum lessons, like hand drum lessons, um, violin, piano, I mean, everything. And they just didn't take. My one daughter, my youngest, likes dancing, so she's in this dance like youth company. Um, so she's been doing that, she's been dancing since like three, because we also signed her up for dancing really early. And then my oldest daughter was kind of more sporty, so she focused more on like volleyball and stuff. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. They come to my shows now. It's great because there's this new thing in Milwaukee, which I love, is that there's a lot, most shows are all ages, regardless. Yeah. So yeah, my daughters come to shows all the time, and it's funny because they're also of that sort of age, hanging out with friends, like their friends, parents know me, their friends know me, or like in the bands and stuff like that. And she gets introduced as, oh, you know who her dad is, right? Kind of thing. So yeah, but I also in the other side of it, I go to shows and people come up to me and like, oh, you're Ren's dad, right? Like not knowing my past. So I feel just as cool, like fuck yeah, I'm her dad, um, but yeah, so it does, the coolness goes both ways. Yeah. 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 Hmm. Nice. Yeah. 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 Right. Right. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, no, I had that same thing. I dropped out of college. As I mentioned, like my first year of college, I was a music major at at a small liberal arts college here in Wisconsin. Um and it got to a point where I'm like, okay, studying theory, which I actually love. And but I was like, okay, I could teach. I don't want to teach. I can't see myself as a teacher. Or I could do, music performance as a major. And I'm like, I don't want to practice. Like that sounds terrible. Like, you know how much I would have to practice because, blah, blah, blah. And so I was just as like, okay, I'm dropping out and I'm just gonna go to, the bigger university in Milwaukee and just sort of like flounder around until hopefully something happens. And Prompter got asked to go to Europe our junior year, so we all dropped out. So I guess my wish came true. Just like if I just kind of tinker around with enough 101s, something's got to happen. Hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hmm. Hmm. I mean, the lessons I received, I think, were a good basis, but my real learning was watching other people, you know, and listening to records and trying to, emulate what I hear and see happening around me, like watching Damon play when we were kids, we, you know, that inferred things and then going on tour and like I mean, I was really lucky because I didn't really have up until like actual touring, I didn't have a ton of like immediate influence, right? But then when I would go on tour and I would see Chris Daly play every night, I would see, Zach Lynn play every night. I would see, like all these incredible drummers. Like that was my lesson. Those were my lessons, like really. And I was already in a band on tour at that time, and I still felt like, oh no, I have so much more to learn, and evolve, you know. And so go ahead. Um, the Promise Ring started with the breakup of two bands. One was called Kaylee Shrine, and that was with me and Scott Beshta, who was the original bass player of Promise Ring, and then this other band from Madison called None Left Standing, which had Jason Genevico and this guy Matt Mangan, and it also had Tim Burton, who was a one of our bass players down the road. But uh, we both kind of broke up around the same time, and we thought, oh, let's me, Scott Beshta, Jason Genevico, and Matt Mangan, let's get together and be a band. And right when we were about to practice, Matt said, "Oh no, I don't want to do this. I'm going to go down to Bloomington, Indiana, and hang out with my girlfriend or whatever." And so we're like, oh shit. And then Jason's is like, oh, I know this guy Davey. I'm going to, he actually goes to UWM with you guys. And I knew Davey only by association of the punk scene, and I would see him at shows, but I don't think we ever physically like communicated or talked to, or we just happened to be at the same shows a lot. And there's actually like photographic evidence of us standing next to each other at shows 2 years before we would actually form a band together. It's pretty funny. Um, and yeah, so that's kind of how that then started. Then we're like, oh, okay, yeah, that sounds awesome. And then it just sort of started that way. And then we got together in the basement where Scott Beshta lived. And that's where we practiced and kind of honed in on what we, wanted to do. Yeah, so that was during Cam Jazz. So that was the one caveat was that, well, let's have Davey, be in this band, but he um, unfortunately is in a band already, so we just have to kind of, work around that schedule or whatever. But then the one caveat also that we had was, you know, Davey wanted to sing and obviously play guitar, but he wanted to be the singer. So I mean, we're like, that's fine, because Beshta sang in Kaylee Shrine, and um, so that I mean might have been where that would have had headed if Matt would have but not left to go see his girlfriend. Like, who knows? But that was the one thing, and I was obviously I was totally fine with that because that wasn't going to be part of my job title. So, um, but yeah, that was it. And then we practiced and worked and did stuff a little bit while and actually toured, I think, once. Our first tour was still when he was in that band. But then, yeah, when that band broke up, then it was like, all right, well, let's just full steam ahead on this band. It was cool. I mean, we were in Milwaukee and we were really close with Chicago. Um, the Kaylee Shrine actually was like really close with Indianapolis. Like weirdly, we were really close with that scene. But for whatever reason, but then Promising Ring it was connected with Chicago so closely because of the Captain Jazz connection. And um but I mean the scene was kind of like any punk scene, basement shows, do it yourself, you know, patches, silk screen your own shirts, all that kind of stuff. I mean, it was all what, just yeah, and just being having that sense of community, I think was what I liked about it. And it was, like yeah, Madison, Milwaukee, Chicago. It was this sort of triangle of shared interest. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, I mean that's everything. Hmm. Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah, yeah. Hmm. Yeah. I mean, yeah, at the beginning it was just like let's do a tour. Because we're young at that time and we're just like, we have this mechanism of travel, like people will go to these shows in each of these little towns that have their own indie punk DIY, you know, establishments. Um, and as long as we get connected and know one person from each of those, we'll have a show. and let's go into that infrastructure and play. And so that's what we did. We did our first tour, and it was really fun. The Scott Bashta bought a van for $500. Um, it didn't have any air conditioning, obviously, and it would overheat. So and it was like we went south in the summer, so it was just like super hot. Turn the heat, but you had to turn the heat on in the van to not have it overheat. So windows open, heat on, like just sweating. I slept on top of the van, I think, at one point of the tour. It was just, yeah. Um, but fun, but fun. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, 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 totally. So then and then we got back. We actually made $500. So we gave that right back to Beshta for the van. So we actually broke even our first tour. Um, but yeah, I mean, that was our goal. And then that happened. And it's like, okay, well, let's write a couple more songs. Now let's try to get another, a 7 inch out. Let's get you know, let's, see what we can do and try to get a label or whatever. So then it just became like, what's next? And let's keep going until somebody wants to bow out. Mhm. I think, yeah, just during one like an interview that somebody brought up that term, and um, yeah, we were like, I don't know what that is. So, cool, whatever. Like, if that's what they tell us, like we didn't associate ourselves with that term at all. And I mean, just because, I mean, obviously, if you listen to our records, each record is specifically designed to be different than the other one. So it's like we weren't like, this is what we are, right? We never knew what we were ever, right? Because we always needed to change and evolve and try different things because we didn't want to make the same record over again. Um, so, like, but that's what people kept calling us. So, you know, we didn't consider ourselves that and at any point. Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Mhm. Not at all. And we were pulling our influences from all over the place, not just like the bands that we happened to be on tour with at the time or happened to be lumped in with us, in that, the inspiration we not necessarily on our songwriting, but the inspiration we got was more of, just being friends, you know, and having a good time, and obviously me would, and just, mesmerized by the drummers that were on tour with us. Um, but like, yeah, I mean, it's nothing that we really wanted to hang a hat on. Definitely not. Well, I mean, the yeah. I mean, I grew up um in a family where my mom didn't really listen to music, but my dad loved the oldies. So like oldies like, Johnny Cash was his favorite artist. Elvis, like any of that sort of music from that era was played. A little bit of Motown, a little bit of that. Yeah, like any of that, like, greatest hits of the 50s. My dad had every cassette tape, and we would, my I had family that lived in Atlanta, and so we would drive to Atlanta, like, right after I'd be done with school for the summer, whatever. That's where we would go first, and to go visit. And I mean, just the tapes that we would listen to down there, and then then you slowly I would, be listening to, you know. The Cure and Sonic Youth. I'd start putting headphones on and listening to my own stuff. Mhm. Yes. Yeah. I'm sure. Yeah, yeah, totally. No, that's such a thing. So like that, I mean, that obviously, that type of, that had to have some sort of influence to pull from. But I mean, it was really like just a lot of post-punk stuff, punk and post-punk stuff that really got me into like that mindset of, oh, I could do that, you know? Whereas like there's, like Rush Moving Pictures is like one of my first albums I got on CD, right? And there's just like, there's no fucking way I can do that. You know what I mean? Like this is just not tangible in any world that I would be a part of. Would I be able to do that? But you pick up, the Cure's first record, or whatever. Like you'd be like, oh, okay, this is awesome, And so Damon, let's go. Let's like we could do this, Um, so yeah, I mean, it was just sort of like that was sort of the main influence for me growing up, was just, yeah, getting into punk was influential. I mean, even so much as like I'm still vegetarian, since I was like 12, because of like New York hardcore, right? Into Today, Gorilla Biscuits, like, all those, like I didn't even know what vegetarianism was necessarily until you'd read the lyrics and do all that. And then it's like, oh yeah, that makes total sense. We should not do that. I don't want to do that. That's fucking gross. And here I am, 50 years old and still vegetarian because of New York hardcore. Like yeah, like the music in that regard, in that around that time, was like, um yeah, influential on so many levels. Not only like the fact that that's attainable, I can do that, but also it's like lifestyle wise, like the DIY ethic, the progressive, like, let's all treat each other with, respectfully and with empathy, you know especially those that, don't have what you have. Um, and lifestyle, dietary, like, you know, uh, it's like that everything, like I was influenced, like the whole gamut was like, it's funny how like that era or that time, I'm still the same person. You know, for the most part, you know, I still feel the same way. If anything, I'm more entrenched in certain ideals. You know what I mean? Because I'm also like, but I'm also an atheist. So it's like I also like you know, grew up Catholic and did that whole thing, and then just at some point I'm just like I don't believe any of this, and I still don't, but I'm still open to like well, I'm not open to converting because I will never, that like that's what I'm talking about. Like, and there's two things they would never have me do is like, join a religion and eat meat. So it's like, um, there was a second. There was a second because that was where I was floundering. That's where I was like, I was still sort of like that sort of, like Catholicism. But I'm like, is there anything else out there? And then I was like, and then, when I was at UWM, when I was floundering around in all these 101 courses, I took a religion class because I'm like, all right, the big three, let me learn about you. Like, I already know about one what about Judaism and Islam? Like, what's up? And so, it's like, and I'm always curious in that regard. So it's just like how anyone could follow it, like I want to know like what am I missing? Right? You know? And I have friends that came over last year from Afghanistan, right? And and I'm reading they gave me a copy of the English version of the Quran. Sure, I'll read it. So I'm reading it. And I'm not because I'm curious. What's in this? What is it? What is everyone else seeing? Like it's one thing to just say, um it's not like yeah, I mean you have to understand something in order to make a solid decision whether you want it in your life or not, right? So yeah, anyways. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Hmm. 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 I mean, I feel like, you know, I couldn't, it wasn't until getting into skateboarding, getting in and getting into punk where I've actually felt like a part of something. Like I did not feel a part of, the Catholic Church, because that was a part of my life because, my parents made me do all that. I didn't really feel a part of that. I didn't really feel a part of, I was doing, soccer and, all that, I just didn't feel really a part of any of that up until I met, and my brother got into skateboarding and met his older friends, and I started going skating with them. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is a piece of self-expression that I feel like I can hang my head on, you know. Um, oh, this means I will get totally vilified. This means that people in, like the jocks in middle school will, like find me and like do that. But there's a part of me that's just like, well, yeah, then I'm doing something right. That's like I felt that's how kind of felt with a lot of things, a lot of my choices in my life is just like, you know, if I do this, who's gonna not like this? And if I, and it's somebody I don't respect, awesome. I'm on the right path. You know what I mean? Because like, in life, you just want to be respected by those who you respect, right? So it's like, as long as that's happening, I'm wherever I am in life, that's where I feel like the most comfortable. You know what I mean? Mm-mm. Oh, do you see me play drums? Like I beat the shit out of my drums. And there's a reason for that. Like because I have anxiety and I have fucking stress and worry and all that. And I didn't realize, as I mentioned before, like that time between 2016 and like 2020-ish, when I was not playing drums, like it affected me. Like I didn't understand it. I didn't, I thought it was like, oh wow, I'm really, I'm not as happy as I was, or I wasn't, as fulfilled feeling, or what I mean? Like, and then I would start playing drums again and playing out and doing that. And I'm just like, oh, like, and then it was just such a realization that I realized that like if I wasn't playing drums, I would have been completely miserable on tour. I mean, I was kind of miserable. I mean, like, I was, the times miserable on tour, of course. Miserable being in a band, of course. Um, I didn't do well. I wasn't well, like I wasn't a good communicator at all, I could have done that better. Like there's a lot of things in my life that like, the youth is wasted on the young, whereas this like, if only. uh, like I had my knowledge now back then on how to deal with certain things, that you're feeling and all that, you know. But I feel like drums really helped me uh even out. I still had my peaks and I certainly had my valleys, but like, being able to do that, that's where I took shit out on. You know what I mean? You know, because I didn't have lyrics. I didn't have, anything like that. Like I had this literally physical thing that I could do that I think helped um get through what was happening in my head. Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think it's the for me, it's like always the I don't think I'm ever good enough kind of thing. And so I always feel anxious around other people in that regard, you know? And so like with where I had this one thing where like with drums where I'm like, well, I'm not good, but I'm not bad, you know? And, but it's a thing that I can do, you know, and I am confident when I am doing it. You know what I mean? I think that was part of it. So I mean, I think, yeah, it just manifests in that sort of like idea that I just, you know, the sort of self-loathing that, you know, that I had was sort of, you know, just made me really anxious all the time. You know? Yeah, totally. Yeah, yeah. What if I'm not good enough? You know, what if I say the wrong thing? What if this gets misinterpreted? What if that was supposed to be a joke? You know what I mean? Like, uh, but now I'm too, but I'm also, I was sort of, I was the worst person because I was sort of an introverted extrovert. So it's just like, you know, I was like in high school, I was in like fucking drama. Like I was in musicals, I was in plays, I was on stage acting, quote unquote. But like I was with people, I was with friends, like, you know, but I was, you know, I always, I don't know, again, maybe it's part of this self kind of loathing thing, but I always I was comfortable putting myself in uncomfortable positions. I don't know if it's just sort of like, you know, I don't know why, but like, I don't like, even if it's like a feeling of enjoying failure or of, what else are you going to do? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's like, you know, because I also have this sort of thing where, um, you know, this idea, you know, that because I don't really have, I'm an unbeliever that like don't, I, this is it, right? You know, for me, there isn't something after, right? Like the lights go down when you're dead. So it's like, you got to make the most of it. So I think that's part of the reason why there's a lot of time where I'm like, you want me to do that? I've never done that before, but fuck yeah, let's go, you know, figure it out. Um, yeah. So it's like, there was a lot of that, you know, which is sort of like goes against what I just said about me being totally shy and, you know, those that's like the two wolves inside me, you know. Yeah. Hmm. Hmm. Mhm. Ah, yeah, that's a good question. I think it's I mean it could be everything that I thought I did wrong is being sort of like driven out of me with every snare hit. You know, like everything where I wasn't, I didn't feel confident in, or if I felt I made a mistake in, or whatever, I could use my body as a vessel to, you know, extract those feelings. You know, Um, yeah, I mean, I feel like that's probably it. And I kind of you know, like it's kind of dawned on me with the story that you talked about with your that other client or whatever it was, that I mean, you know, playing drums, I was on stage as an, I was an actor as well. You know, like me behind the drum set is not necessarily who I am, you know, IRL. You know, there is a bit of performative measures that happen when you hit the stage and you have to play. You know, like I am I feel like I am a bit of a different person, you know. Um, I mean, it's sort of like well, being on stage and being a musician and doing that is there is this sort of empowerment, right? So it's like I I psych myself up all the time when I play. That's why, like there's a lot of times when I'm watching other drummers that I'm like, oh, well, I'm gonna do better than that. Let's do better than, like that sort of thing, you know? So when you're up there, you're like, you have this sort of like bravado that I don't really have in like my normal life, like I'm not a very macho, bro. You know what I mean? At least I don't think so. Um, at least I hope not. But but it's different than when, but there's something when I play drums that I feel like, for whatever reason, there's this little chip on my shoulder that needs to, like be there and just be like, I'm gonna fucking slay you all tonight. Like that's what I have to say to myself when I get up there, to be like this, like I'm gonna put it all out there. I'm gonna do the best I can and just put it all out there and you know, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I mean, so I started seeing a therapist, and the it all started with my mom, who started, she recently passed away due to Alzheimer's and dementia, and seeing her uh, sort of quick downfall, like it's all sort of started happening a little bit before the pandemic, but once the pandemic hit and her worry took over, because she was such a loving, caring person, that when she had to be quarantined, she couldn't be the caregiver to the world that she was used to, right? And I think that really affected her. And also at the same time, glaucoma, her eyesight went. She couldn't read as much, which is she loved reading. And because of that, she also couldn't walk. She was an avid walker, So all the things that made her deal with, like her, it was like me, like if someone would take my drums away, right? Like it was that was happening to her. And so she, it's like a downhill really fast. Um, and so once I started seeing that, it's like, the best gift a parent can give a child is don't end up like me. Right? So I see that in my mom. I'm like, that is me. That will be me. What can I do now to push that down? If that is inevitably going to be me, what can I do now to make that as far, you know, in the distant future as possible? So I was like, well, I should start seeing a therapist. Um, so that has been helping me, uh, and in the last, I think maybe 3 or 4 years. I just kind of started. Um, so yeah, that's sort of what like has been a part of my life now. Um, yeah, that's a good question. I mean, basically being open to, but basically being open to talking about all of this and like everything that I've said basically was because of therapy. You know what I mean? Like I learned a lot about that, about like, sort of myself and how I am through these sessions, you know. Um, like the realization of you know, needing to drum, needing some sort of physical thing. And I also started running. Um, so I do that, as often as I can, even though it's, like wind chill, negative something, like this week and next aren't going to be good. So I'm probably not going to run, but that really helps me because another thing that I needed to do and work on therapy with, one of the goals is better sleep, right? My mom was terrible sleeping. My mom was terrible at sleeping. And I was like, well, I see that because, my brother and I really had to help my parents navigate through all of this while they, had to go into a home and, all that stuff. And my mom had to go into memory care, all that. We had to navigate all that. And so, like, just being with her and being like, well, yeah, she, just cannot sleep. Um, so that was one of the goals of therapy is what can I do? Because I get the 3 a.m., you know, ball of stress in the middle of the chest, that, you know, what do I do? And and I'm not really like I'm not really a prescription person. Like I tried a prescription. I try to do it without, you know, and I'm sober and I'm not, and I don't do weed, like and like nothing. I try to deal with things like as naturally as possible. Um because it's like if so like I was prescribed something and it worked well, but then I think my body just gets used to shit too quickly. Like there's this time where I had a lot of work done on my teeth. Terrible, terrible teeth. Now they're fine-ish now, but growing up, like just sugar gum and just taking whatever candy, whatever. Terrible teeth. So a lot of work done on my teeth. And one time, like, this the dentist was, trying to do some work, and every time they'd put medicine in me to numb it, I would say I still can feel it. And I'm like, and then it happened again. They walk away, they put more in, whatever. And then I was just like, no, I can't. I can still feel it. And then they said, well, we legally cannot give you any more. So we have to do it. And so so I dealt with this procedure partially in a lot of pain. Um, and so it's just like, so that happened. So I was just like, it's not, like the sort of cost benefit of this is just like, like not cost money wise, but cost body wise. It's like, it's not really um doing it. And that's why like you're like I was sober for like most of my life, and then just recently, you know, mid 30s or something, started drinking, and then it was the same sort of thing. It was like, oh wow, this doesn't it's not really doing anything for me anymore. Like it actually is a detriment. Like the way I feel, like the cost, the benefit of feeling good or whatever is much lower now than the cost I feel afterwards. So I'm like that, okay, that's an easy stop. And and so it's just like, yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't. So I tried to, yeah. So going to therapy, I'm like, well, that's one thing that we can tackle. Let's tackle me getting like tell me, therapist, what should I do when it's 3 a.m. and I have this thing in my chest? And so we worked on techniques and stuff like that. And For me, it's reading. So if I read before I go to bed, and it's just so get my mind off of the day, and I just whatever focus on whatever, currently it's the Quran. And then, when I feel sleepy or I can't read anymore, I put it down. My mind is at a state where it's sort of like you're kind of thinking of what you just read. And then um and then if that happens, uh then if that does happen at 3 a.m. or whatever, and I'm like, oh fuck. um there's a couple things I do. One is I think of I put myself in I I took a meditation class, and one of the sort of mantras was like, you breathe in just, and you breathe out this. So you're just saying just this. And so I do that, and then I put my mind into a happy place. And one of my happy places is there's a DIY skate park in Milwaukee, in Esserbrook Park. And I picture myself doing this run. It's it fucking works. Like you just put yourself into a happy place like that. It's sort of like me counting sheep. Is me breathing, doing this breathing, and picturing myself doing this run that I like to do at Esserbrook, right? And I try to do that for a little while, and if that doesn't work, then I just go back to reading. I turn the light on and I just start reading some more until my mind can then go from whatever was going through my mind at the time of waking me up to whatever is happening in this book until I can get tired again. And then I, turn off the light, and then I just sort of think of what I just read, and that sort of helps. Yeah. 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 Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And one of the things, the go to this visualization, is the sort of dinner guest. So one of the techniques my therapist was talking about is this sort of dinner guest. Like bring this thing, visualize this stress. I visualize it as like this, like a floating black mass. Bring it in, have dinner, have a conversation with it, and then let it go. And then at some point, dinners don't last forever. So you say goodbye, and so that was another technique that I used, as well, which is kind of, yeah, visualizing it, giving it a thing that you can attach to, that then you can then release. Hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hmm. Right. Right. Yeah. 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 Right. Hmm. 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 Yeah. 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 Oh, I work for a company called September Club, and we do documentaries. So it's like a lot of stuff related to that. We have a we have a marketing side, we have an entertainment side, we have a development side, and I'm on all fronts all the time. So I'm the go-to for certain things, yeah, yeah, that's yeah. Oh, I mean, that's the blanket term for one thing, but I produce on both the development side and the marketing side. I post supervisor for for the entertainment side. I done motion graphics for some of our films. I do audio work. Um, yeah, so it's just like um, yeah. So I do whatever basically do whatever's needed. Kind of like the role of the drummer in the band, like just do whatever's needed. Like you have to be the empathetic one, right? Like you have to know how everyone's feeling, because that infers how you're going to play. I feel the same way. I kind of treat the same way with the company as this. It's like, you know, since I don't know, oh 06, oh 07 ish, I kind of like did, yeah, because I was, Mhm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. At least some knowledge of it, yeah. You know. But I still do and coordinate with, those separate silos, and coordinate them all together. Um, but the editor should be able to open up an After Effects file and change some type if, that the motion graphics person set up, the template, that sort of thing. Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, everyone has to have at least a base knowledge of everything. Hmm. Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, it right, right. I mean, it's fun. It's different, right? Like there's a sort of immediate gratification in music ish, right? In performance. Like it takes forever to write, record, release a record and whatever. But there is this sort of, pretty quick gratification for in music. Film, totally different. Takes years to develop a project. It takes years, to develop this and that. And so, it is different. But when I joined, this company, like their background was in indie film. And, obviously my background was in indie music. So we had this sort of built-in, camaraderie with like, you know, different worlds, but yet the same experience in a way, right? Because, you know, it's it's just, yeah, it's just as hard to make a record as it is, well, it's harder to make a film, to be honest. But you know what I mean? But like you've gone through it. Like, that's why like when I was hiring people, like I if they happened to be in a band and was on the road and did all that sort of stuff, I'm like, I'm gonna hire you because there's nothing I can throw at you that is any worse than what you've already lived, my friend. Like yeah. So it's just like, there's nothing that you haven't lived through already that because when you're a touring musician, you're the tour manager, you're the roadie, you have all these skills that you don't know you're developing. Then you get into the real world and you know, it's a little different, but you've basically already dealt with all this shit. You know, you had to be a communicator. You had to deal with problem solving. You had to do all that on the, you know, and things flip instantly. And you have to, you know, pivot on a dime. And so it's just like that all helps you in the real world. You know, I mean, you have to deal with all the trauma that all that, you know, that ensued throughout all of that learning. But, you know, yeah. Mhm. Totally. Sure. Yeah. My drumming, I don't think there is a legacy of my drumming. I don't think. I mean, you know, the one good thing about, you know, like the indie drummer collective and having other people like comment or whatever and say, oh, you're, you know, big influence and all that stuff. Like, I don't know. Like, I see it, so it's there, right? It's people are saying, oh, this record, that record, your performance here, like, you know, it's a huge influence. Um, but I don't think it's like, but I don't think I'll be in the halls of any sort of thing. But I don't need to be, you know, like that's besides the point. But no, but it's great to hear these people that's, you know, that have listened to things that I've been a part of and could grab onto things like I have with all the music that I've ever listened to. Like I am so good at ripping things off, you know, like I'm really good at that. You know, like, oh, you know what would be good for this song? This thing that somebody else did 20 years ago would be perfect. And I'm just going to do that and I'm going to spin it, you know, change it a little bit or whatever, make it my own. But basically, it's this, you know. Um, that's 80. Yeah. Well, I think the idea, I mean, the idea, I think, at least for me, is that like, you know, like keep things as simple as possible, just because I have a very simple mind and I can't deal with complexities, you know? Like why I was much more endeared to post-punk than I was prog rock, right? Is it just like at a certain point, prog rock is just fucking circus music to me, right? Because it's like I can't even fucking comprehend it. Whereas it's like punk, I got it. Like, good, let's do it. Um, so like, even though I think like that, so I mean, so as long as somebody can be inspired to keep things simple, you know, and don't overthink things because it doesn't have to be. Um, you know, because I've, you know, there's seen a lot of younger bands, you know, they all have that like early thing where they have to prove themselves to be in the band, right? So they're just overplaying completely. And yeah, and it's just sort of like, just don't do that. Just don't do that. Just stop. Just stop. Like, yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I think that might have been Miles Davis because I was a big Miles Davis fan. I still am, was, but yeah, you can't just not stop. You can't just be like, I was a Miles Davis fan. Like that doesn't make sense. Anyways, Yeah. Well, that's good. Good. More people need to have that because I see like these bands play and I'm just like, just stop. Like do half of what you're doing and it's gonna be great. Like you'll still impress people. Yeah. 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 Right. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I would 100% just give them my notes from therapy. Yeah. Here, young me. I'll be like Moses coming down with this. Here's some real fucking commandments for you, my friend. No, that's 100% what I would do because I think that would have that would have saved a lot of grief in my life. But yeah, no, I think that's one of the things I would do if that was possible is to just kind of because basically what it is giving them myself younger the collective knowledge of what I need. Yeah, what I would have needed back then that I didn't think I needed. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean it's great. I actually enjoy that because I have this family from Afghanistan. I have the eldest daughter. I have great conversations with her about that, you know, because you know. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we had lunch yesterday and we had a great time talking about the stuff that I've read so far and and just in general, like because it's weird for them because it's like, yeah, I mean, whatever. I mean, it's the same thing with Christianity, right? Like there's people who take the Bible and then they bend it to their their will or their needs. And then there's others that are like, well, no, that's not really it. And, they can understand like the sort of nuance with it. Same thing with the Quran, like, because she escaped basically Taliban country, that when Taliban took over, um, that, like, okay, well, you interpret the Quran this way, but like, how do you think, like, how does the Taliban it's the same book. It's the same book, right? Like, it's the same words, and it's just like, right, totally. Yeah, it's just like yeah, right, totally. Like yeah, yeah, right. Hmm. Yeah, right. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. 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 Well, I mean, I think that was a problem. That was one of the biggest reasons that why I was sort of like, became an unbeliever, non-believer, because it was just sort of like, I, I don't want to live in this world or believe in something where I'm being forced to have this us versus them. Like there's too much us versus them. You know what I mean? Like, and there's these, so it just soured me on all of that, yeah, yeah, it's crazy. Just crazy. But yes, I'll wax poetic anytime on this. Okay. Yeah. 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 Sure. Yeah. Yeah. No problem at all. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I like this idea because I feel like, like if we all could just go back in time and tell our younger selves, what we know now. And so it's like if this helps somebody that is the young, like is going through the shit right now that I went through back then, like, with some knowledge of an elder. Let's yeah, that's great. Oh, that's good. Yeah. Right. Oh yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, pleasure. Take care. Yep. See you. Bye-bye now.